Good evening, everyone. It's Dr. Shiva. We're going to start today our discussion about a very cool plant called Neem. We're going to focus on Neem's capabilities for immune health as a part of our immune health series. So it's known as a divine tree from the Indian systems of traditional medicine. It's mainly cultivated in the Indian subcontinent. It's an omnipotent tree, which means it has many, many different medical uses. And it's been used for more than 4,500 years, 2,500 years before the birth of Christ. Highly exploited as a medicinal plant. It's not just the leaves you use nearly every part of it. We use the seeds, the oil, the leaves, the bark, the roots, and it shows an important role in disease prevention. In fact, the U.S. National Academy of Sciences has declared Neem a tree for solving global problems. Let's take that in mind from an east-west side. The immune system is a very complex system. If you get a pathogen, your innate immune system, the virus comes in, and the early part of your immune system called the macrophage right here tries to eat up that virus through what's called phagocytosis. It envelops the virus and starts chomping at it. And when it chomps at it, you see this little pink thing? That's what it presents to the CD4 T cells. And that's called the adaptive immune system, which activates the CD4 cell to tell the B cell here to create antibodies, which is little Y guys. And it also tells the CD4 cell to turn on the CD8 cell to blow up the infected cell. So this whole thing is called the innate system and the antibody system. And in this narrative, the goal is once a B cell creates antibodies, voila, you are fine. Now, this has been the foundation of the immune system for about 105 years. And based on that understanding of the immune system has been the trigger for making vaccines or for something like mRNA therapy, which is the goal is I want to create that antibody. And if I create that antibody, you're great. Well, it's actually not the whole picture. In fact, it's a little piece of the whole picture. The immune system looks more like this. The immune system consists of not just the innate and the adaptive. It involves the interferon system, the gut microbiome. You have about 60 trillion bacteria, viruses, the neural system that interconnects the gut to your brain through the gut-brain axis. It's a much more complicated system. And this diagram is part of the discovery I shared at the National Science Foundation, where I was invited as one of the leading guys on the immune system to give the talk on the modern theory of the immune system. Again, as I was saying, yeah, that two-box model may have been good at a certain point, but now we know it's much more complicated. So you can see there's around 3,295 papers written on Neem, not just a little bit, that's quite a bit, 30 clinical trials. And so this goes all the way back to 1915. It's been research for over 105 years, 30 clinical trials. And by the way, we'll talk about what a clinical trial is, but at a high level, a clinical trial is where you take something and you test it on human beings. It's not just tested in animals or in a test tube, it's actually tested on humans. So about 30 different clinical trials have been done on it. And as I share with you, when you look at all those papers, how do we actually handle that? Well, we use a technology that I created called CytoSolve. Now, CytoSolve, you guys can go check it out, but it's really a platform. It's a technology platform for finding new molecules faster, cheaper, and safer. So Neem is a way we can identify new molecules faster, cheaper, and safer from natural products. And the problem is that when you look at the way that drugs are produced in the drug development world, this is how drugs are actually created. By the way, just to go back, if you look at all those papers, one of the real important features of CytoSolve is we can take a lot of papers that exist in the scientific world. We can figure out how we're going to extract knowledge out of them. So what we can do here is we can literally take all of those papers, we curate them. That's the first part. So curation means out of all those papers out there, we try to figure out which are the relevant papers, which have actual scientific studies on them. And we focus it on, in this case, immune health. Then from those, we extract out the molecular mechanisms, and then we create an architecture out of that, and then we're able to do modeling. But this entire process is called bioinformatics. I wanted to let you know that we use the technology here. We've helped many, many companies over the last 16 years, a lot of smart, innovative companies, but we decided with all the mathematical models we've created, why don't we try to use this to compute the best product we could think of from the science out there for reducing pain and inflammation, pain and discomfort. And that resulted in us creating MV25 using CytoSolve. We're going to have more products that are going to be coming, but let me just show you what MV25 is about for those of you who haven't heard about it. But this is using CytoSolve in a beneficial way, not to just do research, but find combination therapies.
Hi, I'm Barbara Ann. My hands would cramp up so that I couldn't hold cards or knit or crochet, and they would go like that. And I'd have to use this when I played cards with my grandkids, and I started taking that MV25. After a bit, I was able to hold cards in my hand. Very, very little cramping, hardly at all anymore. MV25.
Hi, my name is Sandy. I'm a Taekwondo instructor. I tore my ACL during Taekwondo. I had a lot of pain and limited mobility. I've been taking the MV25 for about 6 months now. After the first week, I noticed a big difference. After the second week, almost literally no pain.
My name is Jeremy, and I suffer from a lower back problem. Hurt my back at work years ago, and I can go to the chiropractor, do all kinds of different things, and nothing seems to help. And I decided to try MV25. I didn't notice a difference immediately, but within a few days, the pain went away, and it stayed away. I've continued to take it, and even when I do things that I shouldn't do, it seems to go away a lot quicker than it ever did before.
It's clean food certified. It's made in the US. If you go to vashiva.com, right on the shop, you'll click there, or you can go right to mv25.life, either way. And then from there, you can click on the bottle and you can order. If you buy 6 bottles, you get 6 bottles for free. Please take advantage of it because first of all, it's going to help you. It's going to help our movement. And it really supports the fact that we want to take science-based approaches to natural products. So Neem. What is Neem composed of? Well, Neem is composed of more than 140 different compounds and from different parts of the Neem tree. The isoprenoids, the di and the triterpenoids, the non-isoprenoids, the phenolic compounds, and the glycoproteins. So there's 15 active compounds with medicinal benefits found in Neem. What are the biological effects of Neem? Many different effects. This is why the National Academy of Sciences says we should really look at it. Well, it's got neuroprotective activity, protects the brain, anti-inflammatory, antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, antioxidant, anti-malarial, hepatoprotective, which means the liver, anti-nephrotoxicity, which means protects your kidneys, nephron, wound healing, immunomodulator, which means shock absorbers for the immune system so your immune system doesn't go wacko, anti-cancer, anti-diabetic. So a whole range of biological effects. Health benefits. Again, a whole range of health benefits, and you can look at this right in the Chemistry Online Library. What's important to note is I want you to look at the first column here. You notice that in traditional medicines, you use not just one thing. Neem is also called the Indian lilac tree. You use the leaf, you use the flower, you use the twigs, you use the bark, you use the fruit, you use the gum, which is a sap, the seed pulp, where you take the seeds and you make a pulp out of it, the oil, the root, the bark and the leaf and the flower, that's a combination, and then the fruit together. So you can see the things, the leaf is really, really good for eye problems, intestinal worms, anorexia, which I didn't know about this until I saw this, biliousness, skin ulcers. The flower is good for bile suppression, elimination of intestinal worms and phlegm. Twig relieves coughs, asthma, piles, spermatorrhea, obstinate urinary disorder, diabetes. Bark is an analgesic for pain, antipyretic. Fruit relieves piles, intestinal worms. You can see sort of the intestinal worms is all throughout here. Getting rid of worms, again, eye problems. A gum is effective against skin diseases like ringworm, scabies, wounds and ulcers. The seed pulp, leprosy and intestinal worms. Same with the oil. Again, intestinal worms. You see that worms are in most parts. The root, bark, leaf, and flower, blood morbidity, biliary afflictions, itching, burning sensation, and leprosy. Now, today, we're going to focus on the effect of Neem on the immune system. So we'll review the immune system. But what you see at the center of this diagram, if you look, is that orange thing called the interferon system. And why is that important? Well, you've heard about antibodies, but most of you, until I started speaking about it, didn't probably know what interferons were. Interferons are a whole amazing group of chemicals. And there's type 1 interferons, type 2, type 3. The interferons are in every cell of your body. Antibodies may not be, but they have antiviral activity. When you get infected, interferons turn on. In fact, they also turn on thousands of genes, and those, so it's like a huge orchestra turns on to try to turn on other cells like natural killer cells, which take on the virus or the bacteria or other pathogens long before the antibody system kicks in. And you got to understand, an antibody is only good for that particular pathogen. If that pathogen mutates, you're screwed. You got to create another antibody. You got to go get another vaccine. But the interferon system is invariant to that because it's a very powerful system that turns on your innate innate and your natural killer and the interferon gamma. It's literally the missing link. So when you look at the interferon system, we talked about the innate and the adaptive. The interferons, here are chemical structures. Here's alpha and beta, which is called interferon 1. As I've shared here in the bullets, they exist in every cell. They create the antiviral environment. They're present in virtually all cells, and they constitute the first line of defense against infection. But more importantly, what interferons do is they literally interfere. They interfere with these processes. And it's unfortunate that the interferons don't get the credit that they deserve, because they're literally the thing that connects everything together. They're like the connective tissue of our immune system. So there are many interesting products, many supplements that support interferons. If you want, I can do one, but one of them you can look into is NAC, N-acetylcysteine, which is the thing that is a precursor to glutathione. Very powerful. But the interferon system, for example, there are people who'll get infected by some virus. They'll show no symptoms. In fact, they won't even have antibodies, but they got infected, but they're fine. Why? Because the interferon system turns on, and the interferon activates a barrage of the CD8 cells and the natural killer cells, which go gobble up the infected cells. Remember, the goal in fighting a virus or pathogen is you don't want them to use your body as a host to replicate themselves. So right when you find an infected cell, you want to take it out. And the sooner you can keep the viral load low, your body is going to be better and better and better. So start thinking about it that way, the power of the immune system. So if you focus on the goal, a systems approach, versus just focus on one piece of it, antibodies, you're going to have much better results. So let's look at the effect on Neem on immune health. Neem modulates immune response via the anti-inflammatory mechanisms, and Neem activates the adaptive immune system. Neem is known to be antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal. So now look at this. You'll notice that Neem has a number of chemicals, and again, it works through NF-kappa beta. Everyone, you can see Neem has azadirachtin, nimbidin, and nimbolide. 3 of these molecules suppress the transcription factor NF-kappa beta. So what's the transcription factor? NF-kappa beta turns on your DNA to make chemicals. There are certain things called transcription factors. They're chemicals that land on your DNA and stimulate them to make gene products. So the gene products are typically cytokines, as you can see here. So these cytokines, there's 4 of them: IL-1 alpha, IL-1 beta, IL-1 6, and TNF alpha. And these 3 cytokines cause inflammation. And then there's this enzyme, COX-2, which creates PGE2, which causes inflammation. 5-LOX creates leukotrienes, a little bit different pathway. These are called molecular pathways. And so NF-kappa beta in this case is called upon, which typically creates inflammation. Well, guess what the 3 chemicals in Neem do? They suppress NF-kappa beta in such a way so it has a very powerful effect on stopping inflammation. And Neem active compounds in the seed oil, particularly in the seed oil, which are these 3 compounds, inhibit NF-kappa beta, thereby inhibiting expression. So remember, I talked about there's many ways you can get Neem. We're talking about the seed oil in this case. It's a seed oil. The next thing I want to talk about, now look at this. We're going to look at the interferon system. So look at what Neem does. Neem increases interferon gamma. And the higher amount of interferon gamma you have, that means increased production of the adaptive and innate immune cells, such as Th1 cells and cytotoxic T cells. So what interferon gamma, it increases, and increase of this opens up your cytotoxic T cells to go blow up the virus. And the Th1, what this does is it stimulates IL-2, IFN gamma again here, and TNF beta to go turn on the adaptive immune system stimulation. What we need to understand is the cytotoxic T cells, these directly kill the virus and mitigate the infection. They're effective against poliovirus, herpes simplex virus type 1. So look at this, what we're looking at here. The Neem turns on the interferon gamma system. And the gamma system is a type 2 interferon. And the interferon gamma system has this 2-part effect. It turns on your adaptive immune system, as you're seeing here, but it also turns on cytotoxic. Cyto means cell, toxic means deadly to the infected cells. So cytotoxic T cells, and as you can see here, the cytotoxic T cells directly kill the virus and mitigate infection against poliovirus, herpes simplex type 1. Very powerful. This is why Neem, I think, as I mentioned to those of you joining, the National Academy of Sciences is one of the most powerful ingredients known on the planet for global possibilities. Antiviral effect. Neem leaf extract turns on the interferon system. Let's move on to the antibacterial nature of neem. Remember, I shared with you that when I grew up as a kid in India, we didn't have toothpaste. No one could afford toothpaste in those villages. No running water, no electricity. On your way out into the woods to do your early morning deeds, as you're walking by a neem tree, you take a twig. We typically take off the end of it, strip it, chew it, and you'd use it to brush as you're walking along, to go take a bath in the lake, etc. And you chew it so you get that bitter taste going through your mouth. You'd spit it, but it has a very powerful effect of cleaning the dental plaque, and this is how it does it. So the neem seed oil is effective against several bacteria: E. coli, which causes diarrhea and UTI, Staphylococcus, Listeria, Salmonella, and P. gingivalis, gingivitis. And also, if you look at the dental plaque, the neem seed oil extract breaks up that dental plaque. And by the way, bacteria don't develop a resistance to neem. Remember, if you take antibiotics, what happens? They can mutate, but they don't develop a resistance to neem. Again, the power of nature. Man-made antibiotics, the organisms are much smarter. But when you're using nature against nature, it's much more powerful. So you can see the neem has many, many different antibacterial activity. In fact, I think you'll find toothpaste these days where people throw in neem. The next thing I want to talk about is the antibacterial and fungal activity. And we've seen this before. The azadirachtin, azadirachtin from the neem soil disrupts the cell wall. It literally blows up the cell wall and leakage takes place. And this is good against bacteria as well as fungi. And the cell wall disruption leads to the leakage of the intercellular content. This is systems theory. So transport is having to do with motion, conversion, things like digestion, storage is things like your skeletal or your bone, things that sustain you. If you look at Vata, is the aspects of motion. So neem increases motion, bowel movement, cleanses stuff out of you. Pitta, it stabilizes Pitta, which means your stomach. It stabilizes Kapha, so you don't get phlegm, don't get weight gain, those kind of things. So the point here is that you can look at neem as something that increases motion. People are asking about worms and parasites. Well, that's what neem does. It gets stuff out of you. So look at it, study it. Now let me talk about dosaging. People always say, well, how much should I take? So again, you should go talk to your doctor. I'm not here to recommend stuff, but I'm going to share with you what the science says. According to the science, a maintenance dose is about 12 milliliters, not liters, milliliters per day of neem oil. For congestive heart failure, this is back in 58. They found you can take about 250 grams a day of sodium nimbinidate, which is an active compound found in neem. For anti-ulcer effects, Bandopadea itself, so you can take about 60 to 20 milligrams per day of the neem bark extract. So this is look at this, good. It has an anti-ulcer effect. Now, neem, in summary, inhibits the inflammatory enzymes such as COX-2 and 5-LOX, thereby modulating the runaway host immune response. Neem activates the adaptive immune cells through the interferon system to directly kill cells. It inhibits plaque formation, reduces bacteria, great for your toothpaste. Neem kills bacterial and fungi via disruption of the cell membrane. There you go. That's neem. Thank you. Be the light. Be well.